explain the DPDP for like a layman to understand so that people can understand what the law is about?
It's a very important question. Thank you for that. So, we are used to sharing personal information. It could be with our neighbors, friends, even a shopkeeper. So they then customize whatever you want for us, right? But scale it up. Imagine when you go online or in the digital domain, the data that you're sharing, let's say with one e commerce platform, is going to be utilized in multiple ways. It will definitely be utilized to cater to or suggest similar products to you as what you may have already purchased. But it goes beyond that in terms of profiling you. Profiling where you come from, what you are, where you live. I mean, I would put it in a very simple way. I'll give an example to explain how serious privacy is in this digital world. Now, Stanford conducted a research project, and in that, they used the parameter of the car that you drove to evaluate how the election outcome will be. So, when you're talking about cars that you drive or the food you eat, you will not even imagine that it can have an outcome like that. So, that's the extent of risks. That's the extent of exposure that you have the minute your personal data goes into the digital domain. Therefore, the data protection law, in whichever form it may be, is meant to protect one against collection of your personal data without your consent, against misuse of data that's collected beyond the purpose for which it was collected. So, if you have shared your mobile number for booking a table at a restaurant, it can be utilized only for that purpose of reservation of the table and only till the purpose is completed, which is once you have gone and sat there and had your meal. After that, the restaurant has no reason to retain your data and therefore they should delete it. But who is going to tell the restaurant to do that? The act has to say that. And that's the relevance of the data protection law. So today you have the Digital Personal Data Protection Act for India. It is still not complete because the act has been passed, but the rules have to be framed under that, and the rules will flesh out each of the provisions which are under the act. Only after the rules come out will we know what is the extent of protection that this act is really giving to us. So there are two things that the act will do. One is in terms of protecting our rights as individuals, in terms of what I already said about ensuring consent or accountability of purpose limitation. How long and for what purpose will data be retained, stored, shared, or even transferred to a third country? A third party country, I would put it as. So each of these will be fleshed out once the rules come out.
Ma'am, that was quite an eye opener in terms of data. When we also come talk about data protection and DPDP, we also have to talk about AI. And there are a lot of speculations that the strict notions about DPDP and the law that is coming in would hinder AI and its growth and the creativity. Do you agree with that? Could you elaborate?
Certainly not, because whenever a law comes up, industry automatically assumes that it is going to be an obstacle. I always believe that law is an enabler. So, for instance, you think about it this way. We already talked about the user rights or the individual rights. So, AI is predicated on reading and analyzing and learning from data sets. What are data sets? Data sets are information about each of us. So, therefore, how such data sets are collected and utilized needs to be regulated for our protection. Now, is that going to really hinder industry? If a law says you cannot collect data at all, that would be a hindrance. If the law says you will collect data and utilize it in a particular way, the first and foremost thing that it does is it gives you legitimacy in the manner in which you collect the data and correctness of how you're going to apply it. And therefore, when you start a business, you don't run the risk that you are working in a white space and suddenly some law is going to come and say, whatever you've done till now is illegal, so stop it. right? We call it the rug pull, right? So it's not going to be result in a government rug pull where a business will suddenly come to a standstill. So personally, I believe that a law actually helps you in evolving and growing, including as a business. I told you there were two reasons for a data protection law also. The first is to protect our rights, and the second, in fact, a stated objective is for enabling businesses. And India has been focusing on enabling startups and MSMEs with the focus of India made products or services. So I would assume that once the DPDP is fleshed out, it will actually enable businesses and not really be a hindrance. If you have to do certain compliances, yes, you may believe that it is causing problems or it is a nuisance value, but that's not really a hindrance. That's just the process you have to follow to ensure that you get the best outcome.
It also adds accountability. It also adds accountability because obviously, when you start a business, you have to be accountable for the data that you are utilizing. Also, ma'am, your startup, it's Cyber and it aims to educate. It would be great if you could talk a little about it and tell us.
Thank you so much for that, because Cyber Saathi is very close to my heart. So, I have been working in the field of cyber I started learning about it from 1995, way before India got its law. And I've been involved in contributing through capacity building and teaching and writing, etc., from 2003, right? It's a long time back. Yeah. But, when I formulated or thought of the construct of cyber sati, the first reason was in terms of protecting soft targets online, primarily children and of course women, and non-gendered also, beyond going beyond binary genders also. Each of us then form part of the soft targets online. So when I was thinking about an organization to help these sections, I thought about how a millennial would think about it. So, you are a millennial and you know how it is. If you're in trouble, you will not reach out to a parent or an authority figure. You'll reach out to a friend. And when you reach out to that friend, it's very important that that friend knows something about this domain and is able to guide you properly. Because if they guide you wrong, then you can land up in more trouble, particularly when it comes to digitally enabled crimes. So, the whole idea of the name itself is you reach out to a cyber Saathi or a cyber friend, and therefore the name Cyber Saathi. And the first flagship initiative that I started was Be a Cyber Saathi, which was to create, no, I actually have formulated an e product or an e learning process, I would say, because it was actually uploaded for free. I did not even charge for it or anything. But the whole idea was the first responder is then better aware of how to help the friend in need and be a better cyber sati. So today, cyber sati works bottoms up and top down. And in a way, this is an expansion of what I was doing as an individual, but more in an organized and structured manner, which is to one, contribute to policy making and through research and writing, etc., from the top, and from the bottom up, to ensure better, safer and secure online domains through awareness, through education, and also, in fact, I have taken it one step forward in terms of my writings, and I've come out with a book called Sassy Tales, but with a C. C, sassy is what some people keep calling it, but the C is silent. The reason for the C there is cyber sati. So it's technically cyber sati, sassy tales, and cybercrime stories and the law. And the reason again I use sassy is because today's generation is sassy. They're bold, they are insouciant, and they are experimentative. But whilst doing all that, I want them to stay safer. So this follows a storytelling process and is intended to make it very easy for a reader to read, understand, and emulate security processes or cyber hygiene.
Ma'am, I have one more question. There was a recent case of a 16-year-old who died by suicide after he was bullied online once he wore a sari and put on makeup and put on a and posted the reel online. Now, in a situation like this, what do you think should be the first response of a person who's aware that, maybe he's being bullied or she's being bullied online? What do you think should be that person's approach when he's targeted or she's targeted by bullies or people who are utilizing a platform to harass an individual?
Thank you again for this question. Very, very critical issue. In fact, I've addressed multiple stories on this aspect in the Sassy Tales book for the simple reason that every victim believes that there is no coming back from some kind of a bullying process or exposure online, and they either fall prey to bullying or extortion, or what we call sextortion, when it is for with either nude imagery or morphed, or we are talking about deep fakes and abuse of AI today. So when it is imagery like that also, victims get scared, and they get frustrated thinking that once something is on the online domain, there is no coming back. So there are Sassy Tales does not just warn you about risks or threats. I've tried to provide the remedies also available to you. The first and foremost is, for every victim out there, here is my input, that please don't think you don't have remedies. You have remedies in law, and the law also understands that protection and prevention is the most important remedy you want. So under the intermediary guidelines of 2021, you now have a provision for takedown of nude, or even if it is morphed or deep fake, you can ask for it to be taken down within 24 hours. So you have an immediate and speedy remedy without you having to do the rounds of police stations or a civil court. So please avail of that. If a platform fails to do this or refuses to do this, again you have a very simple remedy through the grievance appellate committee, which is under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So again, avail of this remedy. Apart from this, of course, you have your civil and criminal remedies. In the Sassy Tales book, I have actually listed out with each story what would be the sections applicable under IT Act, IPC, or other general laws also, or special laws like POXO for children, offenses against children, right? So each of these are set out situation wise, as well as a general chapter in terms of what are all the sections you could look at depending on the facts of your case. So this is what law provides to you. As far as the cyberbullying incident which you mentioned, very sad case and certainly not an odd case. This is something that each parent, every teacher, and every friend should be a little conscious about. The first and foremost thing is, if you see a change in somebody's behavior, they are either becoming, someone who talks very freely becomes a little quiet, a little reticent, they stop sleeping, they don't eat properly, they are probably being victimized somewhere. So please reach out, lend a helping hand, and that's why I said, be that cyber Saathi that this victim needs. And don't victimize the victim further. If they say, we shared this picture or nude imagery or whatever online because I thought it was also with a peer, but it turned out to be a pedophile, there is no point in scolding that person, or victimizing them further, because they know they've made a mistake. So there's no point in just haranguing them. Instead, support them to see what are the remedies that you can provide to them. Make sure that criminals are brought to book. Don't hide. The minute you hide, remember, this criminal is going to victimize another 100 or 1,000 more, or maybe millions others, depending on the scale of the crime, right? And finally, in terms of bullying, particularly by peers, there are studies which show that often offenses against children are committed by children. So, one of the critical subjects that I have dealt with in Sassy Tales is of crimes committed by children. So, how do you prevent those? How do you deter them? Because once a child becomes a criminal, also it's a chapa which is there forever and it impacts them adversely. So, you don't want your children to face that harassment also, right? And therefore, how do you prevent it from happening? And how do you create awareness to ensure that the child knows where the fine line of a prank, of joking, is crossed over into crime? When does it become, when does it stop being a joke, and when does it become bullying, which is a criminal offense, right? And it's critical for them to know that bullying is a criminal offense. So, again, for those victims out there, you have remedies in law. Don't go around looking for a section which says cyberbullying. You will not find anything. And then somebody may tell you, oh, you don't have any remedies in law, so just keep quiet. It's incorrect. So seek proper counsel. There are enough remedies in law, but depending on the facts of your case. And most importantly, forget about criminalizing an act of bullying. You also have other remedies, including if you're in school or in college. It is zero tolerance for bullying, whether it is online or offline. So, authorities are known to take action. In one case I was dealing with, though it was in the US, a restraint order was passed by a college authority restraining one student from bullying another student. So you do have remedies like that. And finally, I hope that institutions, educational institutions, offices, all of them will start this one remedy which I have put in Sassy Tales, which is of formulating support groups. It's really important. In India, we tend to belittle the importance of support groups. We think this is a Western construct and we don't need it, but we actually need it. The reason we did not need it till recently is we had large families and even larger peer groups, which helps us. But today, we lead very lonely lives and married mostly to digital devices. So the digital devices cannot play the role of a support group. So you need that individual interaction to know there are other victims like you. You are not alone in this world. Then you will stop thinking that this criminal act is a stigma against you. It should be a stigma against the criminal, not you. So, all this awareness, getting courage from support, and knowing what to do when you're in trouble comes from support groups. So, I truly hope that this initiative is started by educational institutions and organizations. Once again, thank you so much for having me here.